Hello there, friends. Rev T here. First of all, thank you so much for all your support, your listening, your comments, your thumbs up on our series here, Project Phoenix Rising, whether that's been on the podcast or on these videos here on YouTube. We really appreciate it, and we're extremely grateful and encourage you to continue and ask questions and comment more. Whatever comes up, we'd love to hear from you. As far as this week's recording goes, there are some glitches with the video. For some reason, it was dropping frames through portions of the video, so you'll notice that there's syncing issues with audio to lips moving. We apologize. I tried desperately in editing to see if I could fix that, and it was too problematic, too much of a problem. How's that? It was too much of a problem to sort out. So if you don't watch, you won't notice it. And also there was an audio issue in terms of the mic levels, and that's all on me. All of it's on me, Rev T. So I'm doing my best, and I'll do better next time. I apologize. However, the content is still fantastic. Again, thank you for your time and your attention. We really appreciate it. Cheers for now. Hello.
Good morning.
Happy New Year.
Thank you. Happy New Year to you too, and to everyone. Yeah. It's going to get a lot better, right? This year, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I guess that depends on whether you thought it was bad.
No comment.
I'm just going to turn this up a bit.
There we go.
There we go. Well, before we begin, let's begin with acknowledging. I guess that didn't make any sense. Let's begin with an acknowledgement of the land that we are on, the unceded and traditional territory of the Snuneymuxw Coast Salish people, who have for thousands of years taken care of this land and given us this great opportunity to be here and to share in the resource of this island and this country of Canada. And for that we say Haichka.
Haichka. And what I've recently learned is a more appropriate term. Haichka is thank you to an individual, but there's a more appropriate term when you're saying thank you to a group of people, and that is, I hope, Haitzipka.
Haitzipka.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good.
Thank you.
Learned something new today.
Where should we begin? I think this is the month of faith.
January is the month of faith, the power of the month, yes.
Right. So when you started with, this is going to be a better year?
Yeah.
Is that was coming from a place of faith?
Well,
Hope?
For me, there's a fine distinction between faith and belief.
Okay.
A little bit's kind of hard to, but what I think is faith is more of a commitment. A belief is something that's maybe a belief system. Somebody gave you a bunch of dogma, or you believe in the science and you believe in something you've seen some evidence of. But faith, as Charles Fillmore would say, is the evidence of things unseen. And faith requires a commitment,
Right.
You've got to act on it. You've got to do something about it to make faith effective. So.
And that's different from belief.
Yeah.
Yeah, believing in something doesn't necessarily mean that you have faith in it.
That's right.
And there's also the word trust, which is different. And I actually have, something here. I have so many notes for this. But so there is blind faith. So this is all out of the Metaphysical Dictionary.
Okay.
From Charles Fillmore.
Yes.
Blind faith, an instinctive trust in a power higher than ourselves. Because blind faith does not understand the principles of being, it is liable to discouragement and disappointment. So it sounds to me like blind faith is an unknowing faith.
Okay.
Versus the understanding of your actual faith. And
Yeah.
so I think what he says here is that blind faith could actually fail you because there is no understanding.
Right.
And from that, you could be liable to discouragement and disappointment.
Right.
Then there's faith compared with trust.
Okay.
Trust is a weaker brand of faith, but better than mistrust.
Right.
As a rule, persons who merely trust the Lord do not understand divine law. If they had understanding, they would affirm the presence of power of God until the very substance of spirit would appear in manifestation.
Commitment. Yeah.
And almost like a knowing that's unmovable.
Yeah, commitment.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like so strong that you cannot be moved away from this.
An example I heard, 3 people are boarding an airplane. And whenever you're waiting in the waiting room, do you kind of scan the room to see if these look like a bunch of losers and this plane's going down? So there's 3 people boarding the airplane.
What does that mean? No judgment, right?
This is my advanced perspective. So 3 people are boarding the airplane. One is a mechanical engineer who builds airplanes, knows how safe they are, all absolutely trust, faith, commitment, boarding the airport. The second one is a pilot, and she's got absolute faith in the system too. The third person is absolutely terrified, in tears, almost runs back down the ramp, but stays on the plane because they got to get there.
Right.
Commitment. That's faith instead of just believing in this airplane. I thought that was an interesting analogy.
So in the face of the fear,
you have faith, it's stronger.
You still get on the airplane.
Yeah.
That's hard to...
I'm terrified. I'm getting on this airplane with a bunch of losers, but I know it's going to be okay.
Right. There's like, for the Metaphysical Dictionary,
yes,
there's a whole bunch of different versions of faith.
Okay.
There's faith cure, another name for spiritual healing.
Mm-hmm.
Faith in oneself. The ground for a person's faith in themselves is the truth that they are a child of God.
Divine, yes.
And as such, inherit divine nature.
Yes.
People should have faith in themselves because they cannot be successful in any line without such faith.
And that's one of the strengths of unity, is we remind people how capable they are. And we do that in a way that sometimes we don't like, is showing us that we're responsible.
Yeah.
But I can only be responsible for my own actions because I am capable of doing it well. Okay.
Shall I continue with
this?
Yeah. There's intellectual faith. The faith that has its seat of action in the intellect only. Intellectual people have faith in art, in science, in philosophy, which answers their purpose for the time being.
For the time being. No real commitment there, just for the time being. Right,
yeah,
okay,
yeah.
Good.
Prayer, the faith of prayer. The act of mentally taking that which is desired. Jesus said, all things whatsoever ye pray and ask for, believe that ye receive them, and ye shall have them.
Yeah.
So it's like, from that, there's actually the faith, the working of prayer, and then the belief in the faith and the working of prayer. So it's almost like you need both.
Yeah.
From that definition.
Again, pointing out unity's prayer is not asking for things, it's accepting things, even demanding things. It's affirmative.
Right. It's what is the one from Hebrews around faith? Hebrews... Faith is a deeper inner knowing that which is sought is already ours for the taking.
Mm-hmm.
Now faith is assurance of things hoped for. That's from Hebrews 11:1. Faith is the assurance of things hoped for.
And that's interesting, the word hope too, because a lot of people feel that there's almost a negativity to hope. Well, it's I hope so.
Yeah.
But actually, the very first time I went to a New Thought church, I remember the minister talking about hope and defining it as confident expectation. And that turned things right around for me. I love the word hope now. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I had an interesting connection with hope recently, and I can't remember the person's name. It was on Instagram. They do traditional Chinese medicine and Tai Chi.
Mm-hmm.
And the thinking of hope in that philosophy is that we can't live our best life without hope, because hope is our calling into the future. Yet we have to balance that hope with actual doing.
Yes, of course.
Because we can't just sit around and hope for things to get better or hope for things to happen. But we need hope because it actually inspires us to move forward toward
Right.
something.
Right.
You know, if I do this, which is a hope, then these are the results I can sort of expect.
Right. Yeah. Treat
then-
and move your feet, as we sometimes say.
treat and move. And then to not limit that expectation is another key aspect I always think, is to not paint the picture so clearly that you can't recognize when something actually better is coming along.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That the universe God is taking care of us at a level that goes beyond what we think we might be able to generate.
Right. And the old thing, quandary too, is we don't always really want what we think we want. So leave it open for the highest and best. This or something better,
Right.
people often say. Yes.
So the basic definition of faith from Charles is the perceiving power of the mind linked with the power to shape substance, spiritual assurance, the power to do the seemingly impossible. It is a magnetic power that draws unto us our heart's desire from the invisible spiritual substance.
Yeah. Again, that word substance to Fillmore is, most people think of that as a very material, physical thing, but to him, substance is what will become the physical thing, that will be poured into the physical form that you have. That's what substance is. Yeah.
He actually refers to it as the hidden manna from Revelations, is the inner substance, that which comes down out of heaven. We eat of it by affirmation. We affirm that we are fed by the one living substance and so forth. And we're doing the white stone. A white stone is faith.
Explain.
Our consciousness is established in faith in God, a rock foundation, and Peter represents faith,
The rock, yeah.
a sure everlasting place. The new name on the stone is the individual's concept of themselves. Their concept of God and of themselves is a little different from that of any other person's. No other knows it, for it is peculiar to the individual. It would mean nothing to anyone else. It is changing daily as the individual's concept of God and of themselves changes.
All that under the white stone.
All that under the white stone.
And maybe we should mention the history of the white stone. In Jesus' time, when a prisoner was released from prison, having fulfilled their obligation, they were given a white stone as a sample of, or a symbol of their having paid the indebtedness to society and were welcomed back in, right? So it's a freedom.
Yeah, and I think I read it in the NIV, the New International Version of the Bible,
Right.
referred to as servitude. So not a prisoner, because when I think of prisoner, I only think of somebody who has
right.
served in a prison.
Right.
Whereas the white stone is a symbol of the release of servitude.
Oh, okay.
And of course that could be a physical
Yeah,
servitude,
like a housekeeper or something.
or a mental
Yes.
servitude.
And we all have some of that, don't
when we're
we?
giving up something, the
Right.
burning bowl, for example, is usually giving up of a mental servitude
Yeah.
in a lot of cases.
Yeah.
And then the new name comes in as an I am for that growth,
Right.
that new beginning that somebody can have.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Charles packages things
And,
up in
yeah.
a very interesting way. I find that one of the things I have to do is I've changed the language from the he-man concept, which
Right.
is most of the writings in the Bible and in the
Until
metaphysical
about
dictionary.
50 years ago, it was everybody.
Yeah,
So, yeah.
right.
Yeah.
And so I've included the they and themselves and people in general as
Right.
opposed to being specific to man. So there's that work that needs to, in my mind, that I need to do when I read it.
Right.
But there's also just to not get caught up in, sometimes it's circular, but to try to parse out the individual pieces, and then you'll find that it leads you back to what he was saying off the top in a roundabout way. But it can get, I find it can get, for me, it can get a little bit like, what did I just read?
Yeah, yeah.
Like, ever had one of those moments where you're like, I just read something, but now I have no idea what I read?
Sentences were much longer in those days
Yeah.
and more convoluted, yes. That's true.
What else do we have here that I found very interesting? Faith of Jesus. Should we talk about that?
The faith of Jesus?
The faith of Jesus.
Okay. Yep.
Jesus did not claim an exclusive supernatural power, which we usually accredit to him. He had explored the ether energy, which he called the kingdom of the heavens. Not just heaven, the kingdom of the heavens. His understanding was beyond that of the average person.
Mm-hmm.
However, he knew and said that other people could do what he did if they would only have faith. He encouraged his followers to take him as a pattern for faith and to use the power of thought and word. Divine healing is due to the application of the same law that Jesus used. And in most instances, he demanded faith on the part of those he healed.
Thy faith has made thee whole, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's behind what we call mental healing or spiritual healing, faith healing.
A spiritual treatment
It's, it's having faith. It's believing it, actually. Seeing it as done.
Yeah, and then we have from John 14:12, he or they that believeth on me, the works that I do, shall they do also, and greater works than these shall they do.
Yeah.
So it's interesting, the word, they that believeth on me, not in me. And what do you think the difference is there?
I think what he, and translations and Aramaic and Greek and all that, I think what it means is those who believe as I believe what I believe. And it's the same with I am the truth and the way. What I say and teach is the truth and the way, not the physical person.
Right. Yeah, because it's interesting, in the same sentence, you would have those that believe on me, and these and greater things shall they do, does not sound like somebody to me saying, I am the only way.
Exactly.
And you are below me or beneath me. It sounds to me like somebody who is conjuring up the idea of equals.
Ye are gods.
Yes. That you have the... Now, the thing is that I was recently with a group of friends of mine who do... I'm not sure what the definition of this or what it's called or the website they use, but it basically calculates a frequency of energy, and it's based on the teachings or some of the books of, I can't think of the author's name, and I apologize. And if I remember, I'll put it in the notes of the show.
Okay.
That there's a frequency, 1,000 being like super energy.
I know who you're talking about, yes.
David something? David Hawkins? I think it's David Hawkins.
Could be.
Yeah. The Power of Force or something, I think, was a
yes,
book.
and that Jesus was an energy at like
1,000. Yeah, Jesus operates at a level of 1,000. And then from that site, you can put in certain books and you can find out the frequency at which they're vibrating at. And so something like heavy metal music vibrates at around 200. Which,
I was going to say minus 6.
Which might explain why I'm as low on the scale as I am.
Right.
My love for complicated, hard, heavy rock is deep rooted within. However, the scale anyhow is what I find interesting. And so Jesus operates at 1,000. And so how could you get to that same level of operation where you're operating at a frequency and energy level that matches that?
Spiritual practice.
A lot of prayer, a lot of
meditation,
a lot of going with
serving,
a lot of servitude,
kindness.
Yeah, and I just keep seeing it as so much reinforcing your faith in, as Jesus would have said, the Father. The Father within me, and always praying to Father, and having that entity that is of the great source that he would reflect upon.
I was just thinking, as you said, that source is probably a preferable word for a lot of people than Father, because on a subconscious level, we had the Father we had, and all that gets triggered when we hear the word, whether it's positive or difficult.
Yeah.
So source is good.
It is. The reason I brought up Father was because I think from the Aramaic translation through Greek into English is what the closest word they could come to that Jesus was referring to. But as we know, Jesus spoke Aramaic, didn't speak Greek, didn't speak English. Right. So when you get through the translations, then, you know, you have to realize there's some trade-offs that go along with that.
Yeah, and we all have some need to personify it. You know, the process, the presence that is God. As humans, we can only kind of truly and deeply relate to humanity in a way. So there's a little bit of a residual need to humanize the being that's nothing like, well, image and likeness, but metaphysically that is we're like, yeah.
Let me see, did I talk about faith thinking?
I don't believe you did, no.
The most important power of human is the original faith thinking faculty. All of us have the thinking faculty located in the head, from which we send forth good, bad, and indifferent thoughts. If we are educated and molded after the average pattern of the human family, we may live a lifetime and never have an original thought.
Ain't that the truth?
I resemble that remark. Wait a second. The thinking faculty is supplied with the second-hand ideas of our ancestors. You know, when I read that, I immediately thought of Tsumquatin and the land acknowledgement and bringing with us our ancestors.
Right. So, I mean, there's a positive and a negative faction to that, yeah.
The thinking faculty is supplied with the second-hand ideas of our ancestors, the dominant beliefs of the race, or the threadbare stock of the ordinary social swim. Isn't that?
What does that mean?
Well, I think society, right?
I suppose the ordinaries. Say that again.
The threadbare stock of the ordinary social swim.
Wow.
The mess we're swimming in, right? That's awesome. This is not faith thinking. Faith thinking is done only by one who has caught sight of the truth of being and who feeds their thinking faculty on images generated in the faith center, which is the pineal gland in the middle of our brain. Faith thinking is not merely an intellectual process based on reasoning. The faith thinker does not compare, analyze, or draw conclusions from known premises. They do not take appearances into consideration. They are not biased by precedent. Their thinking gives form without cavil or question. Cavil, I think, is...
I don't know.
It's sort of like trivial thoughts. Trivial, like, oh, you can just slough something off as trivial. I think that's what that means. Without cavil or question, to ideas that come straight from the eternal fount of wisdom. Their perception impinges on the spiritual, and they know.
Intuition comes to mind.
And that deep truth, that knowing when you're actually on to the right thing for you.
Yeah, I just know. Natural knowing,
Yeah, and in all of this, I was also, we talked, I think, yesterday about making today's conversation on faith. So I have been thinking about it, and I was thinking on a lot of manifestation or subconscious YouTube videos, books, audio things that I have been listening to over the last couple of months. And there's one that I take from Charles's writing, and the idea of before you go to bed at night, if there's something you want to generate in your life, the idea is before you go to bed, you spend the last 10, 15 minutes in contemplation of first gratitude, of what can you be grateful for in your life, and then holding that idea of what it is you're aiming for deep in thought into the pineal gland, the center of our brain, our God source, which is kind of like our subconscious. And then as you drift off to sleep, this is the last impression you're giving your subconscious. And so the subconscious conversations I've listened to talk about that it's in our sleep that our subconscious goes to work, and our dreams begin to formulate what there is for us to work on in order to have this thing. And then the faith center is, from Charles's teaching here, is that's what we're feeding. We're feeding that faith center with the very thing that we are aiming for in our lives.
Right. We are what we eat, right? Or feed, yeah.
Right. The substance, the mana,
Yeah.
right? The substance that we're eating. So this is kind of like also a way of, this is sort of like a manifestation principle, that what we truly believe, faith, hold as our highest purpose right now, we can manifest by actually taking the time to spiritually feed ourselves that resonance.
Yeah.
As opposed to going to bed with the 10 o'clock news playing on your TV.
Yeah,
and then
or worrying about what you haven't got and need to fix.
Right, and by all means, do whatever you do.
Yeah.
Like watch TV. I mean, I'm not here to tell you how to live or what you should watch or shouldn't watch. However, it sounds to me like there are some principles that have been learned behaviors that we can actually hang our hats on as a way of living that might actually produce the results that we're looking for. I don't know. Try it on.
Expectation too. When you were talking, I think, of Eric Butterworth's assertion that we don't get what we want necessarily, we get what we expect. And that relates to faith, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, having that belief. This is mine. This is coming to me in whatever form. And doesn't have to look a certain way, but I know that this is coming for me.
Right. And that's why affirmations, which we rely on heavily, should be believable to you. Because if you're affirming something that's pie in the sky and the little voice under is saying, oh yeah, who do you think you're kidding? Mm-hmm. That's destroying your faith. It's going the opposite way. So an affirmation needs to be personal, present, and believable. Believable.
And it's the idea of it being as if it's already done. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's already so.
One last thing, when you were speaking, I was reminded of the pie shape, like a graph of the things we know is this big, the things we don't know is this big, and then things that we don't know is this big.
Oh yeah.
And that's what intuition is. That's what tapping into that faith faculty is all about.
Yeah, I love that distinction. There's things I know. There's things I know that I don't know. Mm-hmm. Like I don't know how to fly an airplane. Mm-hmm. I know that about myself.
Yeah.
And then there's this things I don't know that I don't even know I don't
Can't
know them.
even imagine. Yeah. Greater things than these shall ye also do. Yes. Yeah.
Well, thank you.
Thank you. Happy New Year again.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, everybody.
Have faith in this year being everything that you want it to be and more. Believe.
Expect.
Pray. Practice.
Meditate.
Yeah. All those things.
Be grateful.
Yeah. Journal. What was it? I was listening to something this morning, and the journal prompt that this person has been, Sarah Blondin, I have that pronunciation correct, been journaling for the last 12 or 15 years, and I think she said her journal prompt is, this is what I think right now. And then to just write. Don't think, don't stop, don't even, for 10 minutes solid.
Right.
And if there's nothing coming to your mind, just keep writing blah, 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 till the next thought comes along, and write it down. The idea is to not have anything make sense. It's to unload the thoughts in your head. So that journal prompt is, this is what I think right now, and go for 10 minutes straight and finish.
Yeah, I've done that. It's fascinating. Another thing, too, being January 1st, new beginnings, is every once in a while you should sit down and write your personal credo, too. Say, what is it I believe? And this is more conscious than what you were talking about. What do I really believe? And sometimes you don't believe the same this year as you did last year. And that's growth. Hopefully.